Hi, my name is Aaron, and this is Seki Media Productions giving you a game review. Now, I am in love with everything that pretty much Sony has to actually offer us, but I feel as though one of them is high achieving marks or productions they gave will happen to be with Ghost of Tsushima. One of the last games I played that I felt was just an incredible time to have. But now we actually get our hands on the sequel, which is Ghost of Yotei. And we're dealing with a completely different group of individuals and a new storyline. And let's just really talk about really where that actually goes. So again, this is a sequel to Ghost of Tsushima. We are no longer in the hands or on the journey with Jin Sakai and his battle to deal with the Mongol invasion in his homeland. No, we are now in the Ezo region, which is now modern day Hokkaido in Japan, and we're dealing with the new protagonist named Atsu. But her enemies and her vengefulness comes into a new name for her being a ghost, or in this particular case, another variation on Japanese myth, that being the Onryu, or a vengeful spirit on the trails of individuals that have wronged them. And this particular story, unlike the one that was done with Jin Sakai, is really centered on a revenge mission where Atsu is now on the quest to go after these individuals who was known in her region known as the Yōtei 6, a bunch of marauders that basically slaughter her family, her mother, her father, and what she believed to be her brother in a night that became legendary and now in the region. But now she's on close on their tails, going to places around Ezo in her quest to hunt them down and kill them. Now, when it comes really about where I feel this story compares with the last game, I am absolutely in awe of how well there was actually to replicate that classic revenge story with Atsu. I feel so as a character, or with this particular story as it develops, is a little bit, even though it may be a little bit more streamlined on the case of again, this is just dealing with one individual and their gripes with what happened to their past, individuals that wronged them. I feel as though this is a much more intimate story that grips us tightly and thrusts us even further on this path of vengeance. I feel as though, even though I love Jin Sakai's noble story, from being a humble samurai warrior to a shadow warrior, happy to avenge his people and to try to cast out the threats that was coming against him, Hatsu's story, she pretty much isn't in the same. She's not Jin. This is a character who isn't afraid of playing dirty if the need arises. She's very much understanding of her strengths and her weaknesses, and she is not afraid to use that against her enemies. I feel as though a lot of it also, when it comes to the cast and or at least the storyline as it develops with more of the individuals that Atsu finds along her journey, is a little bit more well developed. I'm very much interested in almost everything that has to deal with Atsu, how she feels about the world itself and her place in it, and how well this particular vengeful story engages her and forces her to make very hard decisions, at the same time reevaluate who she is as a person and what this particular quest is going to do to her at the end. Now, when it comes to particular characters that really stood out, again, I really love Atsu. She was actually slightly sometimes a little bit more so than I like Jin Sakai, even though I really did enjoy him. I feel as though some of the entourage that Atsu meets, I really loved her story that she was developing with her brother Jubei. I'm a fan of Yuki's story when you come across her a little bit further down the line, and the complex nature between her, Atsu, and her brother. Another character was a smart guy, little kid named Taro. And actually, I gotta say a little bit more about Taro's concept, because when it comes to Ghost of Yotei compared to Ghost of Tsushima, I'm really happy they actually brought in children into the storyline, because again, we're dealing with a threat that honestly isn't just affecting adults in this region. Everyone is affected, and you actually see this develop throughout the story. When we evaluate the Yōtei six, these individuals that have wronged Atsu and are the main antagonists within this particular story, I feel as though each one is very uniquely centered. I feel as though certain members of the Yōtei six, whether you're dealing with Yoni or the Kitsune, and of course Lord Sato, who is the leader of their group, are more effective than the other groups, like other members like the Snake and individuals like that. But I feel as though compared to the Mongols, who felt very much in the situation where it's just they're evil just to be evil, or you're just dealing with conquerors. With the Yōtei 6, it's a little bit more higher stakes and a little bit more also at the same time a unique angle on complexity, where we also get to see, because of the fact that we're dealing solely with the Japanese region, or Ezo region, we get to dive a little bit deeper into the unique backstories between the individuals and how will those stories intertwine and develop along with Atsu and her revenge story. But the gameplay is very much similar towards Ghost of Tsushima, but there are enough unique elements they added into this one and developments that make it, of course, its own flavor. One of the major new adaptations in this game that I felt that was actually really interesting is that, unlike the last game with Jin Sakai's story, we're not dealing with different blade stances. No, in this case, we're no longer just using a katana. We're using multiple different weapons. We have the dual katanas, which was actually a personal favorite for me, and also we have the spear that Atsu gets to take on, a Kasoragama, which is for individuals that really love ninja based combat, the sickle chain, obviously, and also we've got developments with even newer weapons that beyond swords. We have now, because of the fast forward in the history along the historical path, we're dealing with guns. Those ones are a unique, interesting development. Even though I don't feel as though they play too dissimilar from the usage of bows and arrows, which also make another appearance back into the system. Guns, on the other hand, feel a little bit more straightforward. Admittedly, also at certain times feel as though they might hit harder, but at the same time, again, they serve the same purpose as the other long-range weapons. But of course, we also, the mechanic of how you gain these particular weapons and these new abilities is a little bit also more interesting. I love going to different new masters that are masters of the fields of the weapons that you were basically trying to utilize. I love the training arcs that the unique training arcs and missions that you have to deal with in order to get better and utilize these weapons. I thought that was really interesting. I think one of the ones I really liked the most was definitely that of the Kusarigama and the story that you do with that particular master, and of course other smaller points that goes with it. The transversal system in this game still, at least in my particular feelings, is some of the best in gaming. Being able to utilize these cool winds, calling upon the winds and letting them guide you is never going to get old. The way that you actually utilize your horse to at certain parts, because if you go on like different different roads, increases the speed. So it's not something that everything in this game is meant to feel as though you're being pushed by nature and the spirits in order to guide you. Is a clever, unique aspect that's hidden to push players along a path that doesn't break immersion in this particular sense. Another cool added aspects into this new variation of the game of Ghost of Yotei happens to deal with some of the other unique missions that you get to go on and you get to explore. Atsu, just like her mother, utilizes music, and unlike Jessica, who only had a flute, the unique shamisen that you get to play with in this game is really interesting. Going to different areas to capture new music and be able to play different notes to gain new inspirations is really interesting. Another thing that Atsu does differently is that she's also not just she doesn't just deal with instruments. She is also a very gifted artist when it comes to painting. So not just sitting down at some particular areas to gain poetry, even though there's still hidden details that harkens back to that. She sits down and she paints what she sees, and she uses that her inspiration and utilizing the game. The PlayStation's pad, sensory pads, in order to do those brushstrokes with the ink is really magical. It almost feels as though you really are right there painting along with Atsu, and I really did enjoy that. It again is all about immersion, so it almost effectively makes you feel as though you are within this world with Atsu, and you're experiencing everything just as she does. I also liked, of course, elements like from the other past game, fighting fox dens and going off to different platforming areas to go into shrines is also interesting. But then we also have a new element within Ghost of Yotei that deals with one of her other companions upon this quest, that being that of the wolf. And this unique elements in gameplay that deals with that individual in order to gain a better strengthening bond with them. I feel as though the wolf is an excellent addition, so you don't ever just feel as though you're alone. You actually do feel as though you have an ally at your back, and you're both growing with each other. And I really did enjoy having moments to call her to the back to the battlefield in order to help me attack my enemies. With the skill tree progression, is very again similar to Ghost of Tsushima, where everything is locked within areas of attacks, aggression, and skill points. But some of the newer elements deals with not just the weapon system, but also on her ability to sneak around areas. I feel as though the sneaking elements within Ghost of Yotei is still not as good as it possibly could be that it is done in other games. Again, unlike when I look at Ghost of Tsushima and the fact that Jin Sakai was effectively becoming one of the first iterations of a shinobi or ninja in that game, I wanted some of the elements to really blossom here, especially when you come to the concept of more platforming eras. Again, it does feel a little bit more polished than it was in Ghost of Tsushima, but in Ghost of Yotei it's pretty much very similar, so it really isn't too much differences on that front. Also, I just going to have to point this out. Dealing with an individual that utilizes so many sharp weapons, such as katanas, kisorigamas, and po'oyari spears, just cutting off the head or cutting off the arms, I feel as though that aspect could have been done a lot more better. I mean, again, you have the ability to utilize two weapons. I kind of want to be able to bisect people and stuff like that, but that's just my dark opinion on it, and that was something I was really looking forward to. But again, they don't really do that. It's very much still the same, cutting off head, cutting off arm, and one arm at that, and that's it. But other than that, I'm okay with it. I feel as though also the exploration to gain newer cosmetic choices in the game is also a little bit more better. I like the new armors that you get in Ghost of Yotei, as well as what I feel as though was a more interesting aspect when it comes to Atsu as a character compared to Jin Sakai, because Atsu's background deals with her and her father being a swordsmith. There are moments where I feel as though when you're going to a pillar of honor, she takes this moment to actually observe the weapon itself, and I feel as though that brings a little bit more appreciation to just gaining those new katanas or new weapons in that world. Also, what was a really cool addition in Ghost of Yotei is that whenever you go back to Atsu's home, you get to switch between her past self and her future self, and that transition is just beautiful in order to experience, and it adds a little bit more richness and depth. When it comes to presentation, Ghost of Yotei is just as breathtakingly beautiful as Ghost of Tsushima. Again, there's because we're in the new areas around Tsushima, and we're getting to explore more of the island of Japan itself from Atsu's perspective. We get to see more of the richness and beauty that comes within that area. And of course, because of the new aspects they add from the gameplay, when we look at it through the lens of different modes, specifically Kurosawa mode, but we also got the additions of two other different modes as well. Takashi Might, who brings in a lot more grime and muck and tight camera angles, as well as Watanabe mode, which introduces the director's touch when he dealt with Shaman Champloo. We got new rich changes in the audio perspective when you get to have these cool rhythmic, almost R&B and hip hop inspired soundtracks that definitely does work within the elements. So it really is a position in which you choose your particular flavor and how you want to go about it. I find personally myself to be able to go switching between the Kurosawa black and white and grainy film aspects and the traditional color variation of Ghost of Tsushima. Going back and being able to play Ghost of Yotei with a natural Japanese dialogue is so refreshing and such an interesting aspect that if you were playing Ghost of Tsushima, it was a little bit of a difficulty because of the seeking that wasn't really there. And when they first brought that game out, of course, down the line, Sucker Punch Studios did release a DLC package and a development detail that fixed that part, but to be able to naturally just go into that makes all the difference. Again, exploration in this game, everything about Ghost of Yotei is designed to keep you immersed within the area itself, and it is definitely a place you don't want to leave. I definitely find myself going back there just as much as I did with Ghost of Yotei, Ghost of Tsushima, and Ghost of Yotei. I definitely find myself probably going to get and playing this game over and over again. And of course, I am looking forward to any new DLC that's going to come with it. Fingers crossed that we don't just also get the Legends, the Ghost of Legends package that they did with the multiplayer aspect. We'll also probably hopefully get more story developments, just like we did with the Iki Island expansion of Ghost of Tsushima. I really need that to happen for this game as well, because I know we have plenty of more stories to deal with Atsu and all the individuals that she met along her journey in her own unique wolf pack continuum. But overall, where do I find this game and how do I rank it? I just gotta say that because this game does a lot of things right, and it does improve heavily on what was already presented to us from the past game, I do have to say that Ghost of Yotei is an amazing experience. And I definitely feel as though if Sucker Punch continues to push out games just like this, then we are in well hands. There's nothing else that I can really say except for I need more. But definitely, if you like this particular rendition of review, hit us back on X, Threads, and Letterboxd. How are you a fan of what Sucker Punch has given to us? Did you play Ghost of Tsushima? How do you feel as though this compared to in that last installment? Are you looking forward to more of Ghost of Yotei and seeing more of Atsu's story? Let us know down there at the bottom. But again, see y'all later.